Welcome to the Soul Infused Monday Show today, number 267. Today is not necessarily the most popular topic or fancy or high vibrational, positive. It seems to be at first. Today I'm going to talk about depression, addiction, overeating, and I'm not going to teach you anything. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I am sharing some of my experience, and I have a clear intention on why I'm doing this. And two main reasons, even though I feel that someone needs to hear this today. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone else. The main intention for me to share some pieces of my story is to have an open conversation about these topics, because a lot of people, women and men, struggle with it. And often it's covered with shame and judgment, and it's kind of like put underneath the carpet, and a lot of people who struggle with it don't feel confident or don't feel safe to talk about it openly. So I want to talk about it openly. And if you have been following me for a while, you know that I'm very transparent on my journey. And the two main reasons are, number one, if any of this that I'm sharing with you resonates with you, I hope that it inspires more understanding, more compassion, and more acceptance for yourself. And if this is not something that you personally struggle with, maybe you know someone, and maybe it ignites some understanding and compassion as well. Because certain things we can really only relate and understand when we go through them ourselves. And even though this is a challenging piece of work, like depression or addiction or eating, shame, self-judgment, all of that, when we use it, it can actually transform. And the fact that I'm even talking about this to you, to anyone that needs to hear this, is just a testimony on how we can use this as a positive catalyst. A positive catalyst. Before I share certain things, I also want to give a few disclaimers here today. Number one, I am not a medical doctor. I work with energy medicine. I work with myself over 2 decades now on researching depression from a deeper energetical perspective. I've worked with clients over the last 15 years. Some of them have depression, some of them don't. But I want to be very clear that I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you what to do. And if you are in a place where you feel that you are triggered by certain terms like addiction, suicide, depression, if that is something that gets you emotionally really charged, be aware of it, take full responsibility, because the other thing that I want to give a disclaimer on is that you are responsible for your health and well-being 100%. And if that's not where you're at today, this show might not be the best for you. I'm also assuming that when you're watching this, that you have done or are doing some sort of inner work, that you have self-awareness, and that you are not in a blaming state of that life happens to you and you are not taking responsibility. So this show is not for you if you are not open or willing to take responsibility for your own experience. However, this show is for you if you want to maybe resonate with some of the things that I share, that you want to know that you are not alone, and you want to be more in love and acceptance, and maybe also more understanding with your own process or with someone else's process. Having said all of that, welcome to the show. And if you choose to stay, I'm super happy that you're here. I have been struggling with depression for most of my life. And if you've heard me before, I shared a lot of the things in my past. And I'm also only going to scratch the surface here. I am very different in many ways. I approach depression in a very different way than most people. I learn from it. I see it through a higher lens. And for some reason, it is coming back in my life, and it has a purpose. And in the past, because it's such a shameful, painful, dark place to be sometimes, it is harder to talk about it. I want to be very clear. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not judging myself for it. I am going currently through a hormonal, menopausal shift that I'm still in and still exploring and still navigating through. And I do get to revisit depression on such a severe level that it was mind-blowing to me, that I never ever thought, after so much inner work and meditation and changing my diet, I navigated through depression. It has it reoccurs sometimes, and I have some days or moments, and I'm totally fine with it, because I think it has also been a teacher for me. And I'm very clearly coming from a higher space from my soul, a higher space from a higher knowledge and wisdom. And with that attention and with that awareness, I'm using every time I'm in it or when I'm out of it to learn something more, to have more acceptance, to have more compassion. But it hit me so hard last year, in the beginning of the year of 2022, January-ish. Depression hadn't been like such a big deal for me anymore. Yeah, it came sometimes. I had days where I feel sad and lonely or depressed. I knew it very well. Depression has knocked on my door many times in my life. It wasn't such a big surprise anymore. And years ago, I don't remember exactly when, but it's a long time ago, it hit me again, and I completely surrendered to it. I surrendered back then to my depression. I didn't know if I would come back after a day, after a month, after a year, ever. But I knew I had done so much work on it, and I completely surrendered. And that was a big shift in my life. So I was good for a long time, and I'm okay with navigating through ups and downs, because for me, the human experience is a messy experience sometimes. It goes with pain, with struggles, with joy, with bliss, with everything, the whole spectrum of human experience. Now, last year in January, it seems to be out of the blue, I fell into deep depression to an extent that I didn't understand it. It made no sense to me. There was not an obvious trigger that was immense. Yeah, I had just decided to leave the Dominican Republic. I moved out of my beautiful apartment. There was a lot of things going on, a lot of uncertainty. So I knew there was a lot going on. And at first I thought, okay, maybe it's just hard to navigate right now in my life. But I was so severely depressed that I wanted to kill myself every day in my head. And I'm not saying this like I'm laughing about it now because without humor, but it wasn't funny at all. I observed those thoughts, and I remembered how I felt when I was younger, before I had awareness, before I was who I am today, before I had a regular meditation practice, before I understood who I really am. So I was watching those thoughts, and I couldn't do anything about it. I could just watch them. It was so terrible that it knocked me off my feet for a period of time. And I'm sharing this also for you just because it's very real. And in the past, maybe, or without the support, without the knowledge, without my dedication and determination and commitment to inner work and meditation, I might have broke me. Like maybe, I don't know what I would have done. But the thoughts that creeped in were so bad that by the end of the day, on those few, it was a couple of days, my biggest accomplishment was to be alive by the end of the day. And I'm also saying this because I was There's often so much shame and judgment around, and I've been there, that we don't acknowledge what we go through sometimes. And in that phase, I was okay with the fact, and I was grateful, and I acknowledged myself for the fact that I kept myself alive by the end of the day, because it was so bad. When we are in depression for whatever reason, in my experience, we want to hide, we feel judgment, we feel shame, and shame wants to hide. We often go into a vicious cycle with some sort of an addiction to numb the pain. For me, it's food, but it could also be Netflix binging. It could be playing something on the phone. Food has been my biggest addiction when I went into that vicious cycle of depression and eating. So that came back too. And I'm also saying these things because I have so much compassion, understanding, and love for myself. And even if I don't like the fact that I go back to eating and gain weight, and I know I'm such a health person, I know what's good for me and not, but you don't eat the healthy stuff when you are in the state. You eat like the stuff that's not good for you. But on some deeper level, over the years, I really understood and saw it as addiction sometimes. And again, I'm sharing my own experience of myself and the people I've worked with, can save our lives because it's a numbing, it's a coping mechanism. And for some other reason, maybe you don't find a different way in that moment, and that's okay, right? It's okay. And I didn't even discover that it was related to hormones in that moment, because I understood this was not psychological. I knew too much. I was too aware, and it didn't make any sense. This was too intense. This was too crazy for me to know this is not just emotional. This is not just psychological. Something is really off here, but I had no idea what it was. And a friend of mine asks me, "Oh, Sonia, how old are you?" And I was 50 at that time. And he said, "Maybe," a man, not like, he said, "Maybe you're going through menopause or something." And I looked at him, huh? It was so far-fetched for me. It didn't even occur to me, even though, yeah, 50 was the number that was on my, my age. But I think I'm such a non-typical 50-year-old that it didn't even cross my mind that it could be hormonal. But I'm so grateful because that gave me something to look deeper into. And then I did actually look into it. And then that was true. My hormones were totally whack off. And I'm not going to go into what I did here today. Again, like, this is only scratching the surface. But I got my life back because I had something to look into. However, even though with that knowledge, with balancing the hormones, it's still kind of quite volatile sometimes. So I'm still going through these stages. And every time, and when I have a moment of clarity, I tune in and really want to find out what is this? What is it doing energetically? And I have been so surprised by the fact what hormones can do to us women. Like, it's mind blowing. It's like a light switch. Switch off, switch on. So I'm sharing all these things. Number one, whether it's hormonal for you, if it's emotional for you, if it's nutrition, because nutrition plays a big part in depression, by the way. I'm not going to go into it too deeply here, but back in Germany, when I was still living in Germany, that's like soon to be, I don't even know how long, 15 years ago? I don't know. That's when I first discovered that certain food groups triggered the underlying depression and made it worse. So I've done a lot of things over the last 2 decades for me to handle and to be at peace and to navigate through depression so it doesn't knock me out anymore. And this part with the hormones, that was like, whoosh, knocked me out completely for a little while. I'm also sharing this with you because if you can relate to this on some level, maybe you are feeling this sometimes. I do know the pain and the despair. And when it takes over, it is as if a body snatcher takes over your whole system. You are looking and seeing, or you're seeing and hearing those thoughts, the pain, the shame, the despair. What is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you, by the way. Something is off, something you might want to look into. However, there's nothing profoundly wrong with you. It is that so many women and men as well, but women in particular, when it comes to also in addition to hormonal stuff, struggle with depression. And now we're more open about it, but it's still very stigmatized. Also, the one thing why it is sometimes so challenging to talk about it, that often people say the most unuseful stuff when we are going through depression. Things like, just stay positive. Sure, yeah, didn't think of that. Thank you for saying that to me. You know, it's such so unsolicited advice. And often I understand when you have not gone through something like this, it's very hard to help someone, because if you don't understand what someone goes through deep inside, a lot of the things that we think might be helpful to the other person with good intentions are actually not supportive at all. And there's so much more that I could say, but I just wanted to open up the conversation, share some of my experiences with it, and also be very open about it. And I feel it's part of my life's journey in this lifetime. I discovered and really felt that my pain had purpose and beauty. And I feel on some weird level at peace with it. It doesn't, I'm not saying I'm over it, but I'm at peace with it. I'm not fighting it. I'm not judging it. I don't think anything is wrong with me. When I'm in it, that voice is telling me that. And there are days when I might not get out of bed and I feel so depressed that I just want the day to pass. But on a deep level, especially with the connection that I have and with all the inner work I've done and the constant daily reminder and restructuring of my energy field, this is part of my journey for a reason. And I'm embracing it, even though I hate it sometimes. If I would have just a pill and I could take it and everything is just roses and bubbles, yeah, I would do it, but that doesn't exist. So I choose my path to share and inspire others, and to hopefully ignite the desire or the inspiration or your willingness to look at yourself with different eyes if you are struggling with this, whether it's depression, addiction, if it's overeating, is it like whatever your tranquilizer of choice is. This has it has not a lot to do with willpower. That's also something that people keep saying. It's like, yeah, it's just like, you gotta be disciplined, stay strong. It has nothing to do with willpower. If it would be so easy, don't you think this world would look a different way? And all people struggling in the world with depression and addiction would just change that if it would be so easy? So I want to take a moment here real quick. I think you left me quite a few comments, and I was so immersed in sharing with you. I'm going to go over your comments. If you have any specific questions or if you want to share something, I'm here for you today to listen, to hold space, and let you know that you are not alone. I see you, I feel you, and it's okay. So here are a few comments. I dealt with that being at my lowest last year. I'm resonating. Yeah, I'm with you, Shiva. Yeah, I hear you. Last year was tough for me too. I'm with you. Thank you for discussing me. My pleasure, Lynn. The crazy part is I was on social media, and at one point there were people who knew my relatives and were actually attempting to push me to check out of this realm via cyberbullying. Yeah, here you know when we're in such a vulnerable place and going through something so tough, it's very, very important to know your people. And even though it's hard when we're in it, it's so hard when we're in it, but to take responsibility and to only connect and talk to those who you know are going to support you because they can. Because there are a lot of people who want to support us when we are in depression, maybe, but not everybody can. That's why I'm so good at who I and what I'm doing. Every time I overcome depression on some level, I am a better coach, I'm a better therapist, I'm a better friend, I'm a better human being through the pain. Did I choose this consciously? I don't know. I don't think so, but my soul chose this path for me, and here I am. This is a gift on some level, even though it's such a painful gift sometimes. That's a downside of social media. Yes, absolutely. And you get to choose. Like, social media can be used for very positive and also for negative. You are the creator of it. So be very mindful and step out of it if it triggers or makes it worse. Very clear. You got to step out of the stuff that is going to drag you down even more into the rabbit hole. I hear you. I so hear you. Thank you, Therese. Appreciate it. I had one of these days this past weekend. Thank you for talking about the nutrition part. I knew it affected my energy level. Now I will dig deeper into the depression effects. Yes, you're so very welcome. And food, and that's the tricky part why this is such a vicious cycle sometimes, and judgment and shame comes in so hard. Certain foods make it worse because they trigger an intensified emotional response. Gluten or wheat flour is one of the main, for most people, not for everyone. For me, it's gluten and dairy, and I stayed away from that for years. Gluten and dairy are not part of my nutrition anymore. However, especially last year, oh my goodness, I could not believe I was eating everything: bread, butter, cheese, sugar, ice cream, everything. And I knew it wasn't good for me. I was just like a observer. I was like, what the hell is going on, right? And in the past, that would have been even worse. And I'm not pretending I didn't judge myself at all, because I did. It's hard to stay completely out of it when you go through that. However, there's a deep part that understands if I wouldn't eat myself right now, maybe I would do something worse. So I got a gratitude and appreciation for the fact that I was stuffing myself to stay alive versus checking out. And gratitude, in my case, there are way worse addictions with substances. Of course, health, food is one of the number one parts in our life that determines if we are healthy or not, period. Nutrition, health, food, all of that. However, there are addictions like cocaine, heroin, gambling, like there's so many other addictions. The underlying issues is to numb and escape. Nevertheless, it's the same. It's just more detrimental to your health. So even that, I was some remind myself, okay, this is not good, and it's easy to judge myself, but hey, it will pass. I will learn from it. I will get on the other side again. And every time I do, I'm a different person. I feel so much more grounded, so much more calm about even talking about this. That's even a level of freedom, the liberation in the prison. I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but I feel like there's such a deep freedom with accepting and being okay with it, and to embracing it, to use it, and to allow yourself to be in it, no matter what anybody else thinks. Even if that means sometimes that I'm isolating myself and I'm choosing to hide, because I do sometimes. One more comment here. Even as we age, 70s, hormonal imbalance is a reality. This came home to me when test results revealed last week things were out of balance. Great timing, Sonia. Thank you. So relate. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for sharing. I hear you. I'm gradually getting off a tranquilizer with doctor's help. Yeah. Yeah. Gradually, whatever it takes. Wonderful. And yes, hormones play a big role, not only, but nutrition, hormone, unresolved trauma from the past, disconnection to self. If you're not truly connected with who you are, if I wouldn't have had that, if I wouldn't be who I am, I would certainly not be here anymore. And I do believe that's part of my purpose of being here and helping others. And I will keep walking, and I will keep learning, and I will continue, and I will keep sharing until. So thank you for being here today. Of course, there's so much more to say. And know that if you struggle, if any of this, you are not alone. Give yourself some grace. Take a nice deep breath. If you stopped meditating, start meditating again. Start with one little piece, with one short breath, with a minute, with 5, 10 minutes, and pump it up. Do something every day, if it doesn't even so small. Not necessarily to fight it, but to remove the self-judgment, because you are already struggling enough. You don't need to put salt in the wound on top of it by you judging yourself. Treat yourself as someone you love, as a good friend that you are willing to hold space, and then get the help you need. If you are lost in it, if it's something that you are really struggling with, go and get help, because I would not be here without the help that I got in the past. So I'm saying you're not alone. Get help, share with a trusted person, and keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Because when we go down, we go up again. And at some point, the ocean of emotion calms down. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing. I love you. I appreciate you. I see you. And I invite you to come back again next Monday for our Soul Infused Monday show. Much love.